This is the Bible of the electrogenic cell. It's not just the best book ever written on the subject, it's the only book ever written on this subject. Brought to you by supporters of Christ. Ooh. Yeah. Ooh. Yeah. 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 Talk that talk. Listen. This is a conversation. Listen, this is a conversation we having. And no, I didn't go live yesterday because I had to give folks time to metabolize Friday night's food, right? I go by the numbers. I got to make sure that people get a chance to see the content before we go to something else. You know what I mean? In fact, I was second guessing whether I should go live today, but to be honest, I had to have this discussion with you guys because Tika and Peyton pumped me up Friday night full of gas, right? They said, listen, go ahead, you know what I'm saying? Operate the car with no license. You know what I mean? If the brake pads is busted, just drive the car with no brakes. You know what I mean? Like, they said, no matter what, just keep going. Just go. All gas, all acceleration, all nitric oxide, no brakes. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I said, okay, Sunday, you know, I give it till Sunday. Sunday, we're going to have the conversation. Right. Sunday we'll have a conversation and then we'll start our week off on Monday and see what happens. You know what I mean? Sunday we'll have a conversation. And then by Monday, you know, we'll see what's cooking. Yeah, by Monday we'll see what's cooking. Right? I even got support from shout out to the brother Tanai. You know what I'm saying? Tanai came through and dropped some heavy support. So I can't even just say Peyton and you know what I mean? Like, I can't even just put it on Tika and Peyton. I gotta put it on Tanai. Tanai pumped me up full of gas. You know what I'm saying? 93 too. Not even the cheap stuff. They ain't, you know what I mean? No 87, no 89, just straight 93. Shout out to 050 the movement. You already know. Listen. Now, see, that's more gasoline right there. That's more gasoline right there. So I think that seals it right there, because this is not supposed to even be happening right here. This ain't supposed to happen. So that right there, that's the icing on the cake. That's divine timing right there. So I think we're definitely going to start the class tomorrow morning. Not only are we going to start the class, we're going to start the class tomorrow morning just because of that right there. Just because of that right there. So if y'all don't know, 050 the movement is a content creator, and it's a whole different universe. It's a whole different universe. It's a whole different universe over there. But if he's tuned in on a Sunday, right? If he's tuned in on a Sunday, that tells me we got to get busy, right? We got to get busy. We got to get to work. So I definitely appreciate the tap in. I definitely appreciate the tap in. That right there was divine timing to let me know we got to get busy. We got to take this thing to the next level. So before we start the class, I should have actually titled this video an intro, even though I kind of put it in the title: ElectroGenic Inhibition, Premature Death. Yeah, I kind of put it in the title. It's in there. I could have probably reworded it though. Yeah, I could have probably reworded it. You know what I'm saying? I could have probably reworded it a little bit better. Yeah, I could have probably reworded that a little bit better, but I think we're definitely going to start the classes tomorrow. Even if we're not even fully ready, we getting ready to build this airplane as we flying it. Yeah, we getting ready to build this airplane as we flying it. You know what I'm saying? We just going to jump out. We're going to build the parachute. We're going to stitch us a parachute after we jumped out of a plane. You know what I mean? We're going to get busy with the get busy, because it's that important. It's that important. And I wanted to give folks at least a few days to get their shipping from Amazon. Now, I know everybody's not on the same, everybody's not moving with the same budget. You know, everybody doesn't have resources to get all the books. Some people read slower than others. So I know there's factors that, you know, that I have to take into consideration, but I wanted to at least give people a few days to dig through ElectroGenic Inhibition. Now, let me show y'all what I'm talking about. Let me show y'all what I'm talking about. Okay, so this book came out last week. This book came out last week. ElectroGenic Inhibition, Theory of Death by Fat. Theory of Death by Fat. Now, this is important because this book is, I have to say, a primary inspiration, right? Inspiration, pun intended. A primary inspiration for creating a college paced, right? Not just college level in terms of the information, but the pace that we're going to attempt to move at, right? A college level, college pace program. Now, in fact, we should just go through the paper, right? It's Sunday. It's Sunday school with the minister. You know, we got to get busy on Sunday anyway, right? So we might as well go through the paper, but it's a culmination of 20 years of study. It's a culmination of 20 years of study. And I think that I think this is one of them ones, like when we went through Max Kleber's information in terms of how the body produces energy and metabolism, and, you know, we kind of changed the game from 2 types of tissue to 3 types of tissue, and just totally evolved the conversation around pigment and energy and information. And I think we are about to do that again. I think we're about to do that again. I think we're about to do that again in terms of fat. In terms of fat, Like, not think, I'm sure we're getting ready to do that again, because what's in the paper is crazy, but what's in the course, the curriculum, is even crazier. It's even crazier. And I spent the last few weeks just looking at everything on the internet. And I'm just looking at everything on the internet, and I'm like, yo, this is crazy. It was like scary in a sense, like spooky, like on some Twilight Zone, right? Because I'm looking, and I'm just looking at all of the different amounts of like searching up fat burn, right? And I'm looking at how many hits is on the internet for fat burn. I'm looking at YouTube. I'm looking at Google specifically. How many search things is for fat burn? Then I'm looking at the trend of like how many people every day go to Google and type in fat burn. Then I'm looking on YouTube and I'm typing in fat burn and see how many videos it is, how many experts it is of fat burn and this and that and blah, 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 blah. And I'm saying to myself, this is the epicenter of disease right here. The epicenter of disease is, I mean, the Bible couldn't be more correct. My people are dying for lack of knowledge. There is no such thing as burning fat. Yo, I swear on everything that I love, that right there is the craziest thing on earth. There's no such thing as burning fat. Listen to what I'm saying. It's like there's more proof that there's unicorns than fat burn. There's no such thing as burning fat. Now, for some of y'all that have been with me forever, some of y'all, we have personal experiences. Like you know what I'm saying? Like, I'll give you an example. When the doctor said that my daughter would never walk, when the first set of doctors said she wouldn't make it through the night, then the second set of doctors said she'd never walk again. Like, me going through that experience and then healing her up and having her back to 100% or 97%, you know, like, that creates something in me and my experience that no outward, you know, dialogue or article could ever change that, because I experienced real true healing at a certain, you know, like face-to-face kind of level. And it is crazy that more people where I'm from experience death face to face than life, you know, like healing. Like, so there's some of y'all that's watching, we have these experiences together. You might have had them in your own life, and then some of y'all had them with me, from me, through me, together. We did it, you know, like, some people may be new, you know, they may listen to the logic, to the information, like, you know, some things they resonate with or whatever. So they, you know, they still like, listen to what I'm telling you. Scientifically, there is no such thing as burning fat. Now, I know that's so crazy because you've heard every doctor, every trainer, every sexy woman, every muscle-bound man, every person you could think of got tips on how to burn fat. Like, every type of health professional you could think of, holistic, naturopathic, nutritionist, dietitian, the coach from your high school league, little league, everybody has this idea ingrained in their mind. I had it ingrained in mine. I was taught these things, but you learn better, you do better, you know, and God seems to like to give me like like heavy weight to lift. You know how you see the world class, you know, like the strong men, and they be lifting like cars and trucks and the heaviest things that you can find on earth. Intellectually, philosophically, that's what God gives me, the heaviest things on earth. I gotta move the largest size mountains. That's what I get tasked with. And this one of them, because burning fat is ingrained in people's brain. Burning fat is that's like right up there with like breathing oxygen. Like that's right up there. Like people have that ingrained in their brain. And I'm telling you, there's no such thing as that. So when you think about all of the implications of obesity that you know about, forget about, you know, like we're getting ready to go through the paper, ElectroGenic Inhibition. We're getting ready to go through the paper. And when we go through the paper, which is from the book, right? When we go through the paper, which is from the book, right? If you don't have the book, go to Amazon, add it to your cart, check out, right? But as when we go through this paper, you're going to learn more things about fat. You're going to learn more things about fat, right? Fat is the I know I'm not the only person, right? I'm not the only person because these TV shows make a lot of money, right? These TV shows make a lot of money. They was reality TV shows before reality TV shows, right? And I'm talking about police shows, right? I'm talking about police shows. When I was a child, like some of my best memories is with me and my mom's at home watching TV, you know, and that's what she used to watch, you know, like if it wasn't soap operas, it was like Hawaii Five-O, what else? Hill Street Blues, Starsky and Hutch. If you don't know what I'm talking about, don't worry about it. That means you're probably under 35, and you in there, because these is not even my TV shows. These is the TV shows from the time before the internet existed, right? So this is before cell phones existed. This is before tablets and PSPs, and yeah, this is in the neighborhood. There's no cable. Cable doesn't exist yet. There's only like HBO, one channel of HBO, and I think the other one, like you got the box. When you got cable put in your house, it was a box, and you slid it like the switch from side to side. I think it was just HBO and Cinemax, or either HBO and Showtime, but that was it, right? And if you didn't have cable, if you didn't have HBO or Cinemax, let me stop saying cable, because cable will imply like thousands of channels. Like if you didn't have HBO or Cinemax, you had channel 2, channel 4, 5, 7, 9, 11. That was it, right? Channel 13, you had for a few hours throughout the day, you know, but that was just children. That was just for children. I was raised on channel 13, right? Sesame Street, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Then after Mr. Rogers, it was Reading Rainbow. And then after Reading Rainbow, it was 3-2-1 Contact. Yeah, that was education. You know what I'm saying? I'm a PBS kid. So I might not be teaching if it wasn't for PBS. Yeah, 3-2-1 Contact. I used to watch all of them shows just to make sure I don't miss 3-2-1 Contact. That was a science show. But anyway, my point is this. Detective work, right? You see how distracted I can get? Detective work. When you watch them TV shows, the police shows, the number one most important thing is evidence collected from the crime scene. Evidence collected from the crime scene. The evidence collected from the crime scene is so important that they done created shows just based on the guys that collect evidence from the crime scene, right? It started off with just a bunch of police shows, and soon it evolved to just like CSI, like the crime special, like the lab. That's how important it. And when it comes to health, when it comes to mortality, when it comes to longevity, when it comes to people dying, there's literally only one evidence. There's only one evidence. There's only one fingerprint that shows up at every single crime scene, no matter what the crime scene. No matter what the crime scene, unless somebody gets like hit by a car or shot or stabbed or something like that. But when people die from disease, and you could even throw old age in the disease conversation for this point. Fat is the only thing that's everywhere. Fat is the only thing that's everywhere. Fat is in diabetes, high blood pressure, brain disease, cancer, autoimmune, like you name it. You name it. All of them have to do with fat. Now, outside of fat, each one of these things, and those are broad categories, right? Because there's a bunch of types of diabetes, a bunch of different autoimmune diseases. In fact, not only is there a bunch of different autoimmune diseases, but each different type of autoimmune diseases has different forms that the bunch of different types of cancer. And I mean, you name it, right? A bunch of different brain diseases. And then each brain disease has different. Fat is the only thing that's everywhere. Fat is everywhere. Every one of those problems, fat is there. And I think the reason why fat has been able to escape, like get a few mistrials, and you know what I'm saying, get convicted of lesser crimes like Puff just did. Puff went up for RICO that could have gave him life, but he got convicted of smaller charges, like hung jury. The reason why fat is able to, like slide out is because fat is intrinsic to the body. Fat is natural, right? Fat is natural. Your body needs fat. Your body needs fat. So as problematic as fat is, it's very difficult to distinguish like between something that is a primary part of your body. Like your brain is made out of fat, your nerves, your neurons, your muscle cells, your connective tissue, like this, your cell membrane is phospholipids, right? Lipid, that's a fat, right? It's such a foundational piece of the body. It's hard to distinguish as opposed to like something that's totally foreign. Like if they analyze your body for how much, like molecules or PCBs or plastic containers or whatever, like something that you just know shouldn't be in there. Or if they check you for a virus or something, like something that just shouldn't be in there. It's much easier to create a dialogue, protocol, blueprint, a plan, a strategy. It's much easier to recognize, problems, symptoms, diseases, etc., caused by things that are completely foreign to your body. But fat, Fat is different. Fat is different. So we got to look through this article, go through this book a little bit, and then it'll give us some talking points of what we're going to do over the next 15 weeks. So we're gonna have it structured like college. I don't know if we're gonna keep college time though. That's the one thing I can't be sure of, because I wrote the curriculum already. But I don't know how much time it's going to require for me to deliver it. You know, college is like an hour per class. You know what I'm saying? It might be 50 minutes or an hour and 10 minutes. I don't know. Yeah. You know, this might be triple. This might be triple to what a college, like these might be 3 hour. And then a lot of the days is like a morning and an afternoon session. Because, you know, I have the book is written in the framework of rich abs, poor abs, right? So it's written from a standpoint of an observer. So there's a quantum aspect to it as well. That's a whole nother conversation. So I don't know how long it'll take me to deliver these classes. You know what I'm saying? It might be much longer than a college course, right? But I know it's important, and the information it doesn't exist in the world, you know, like it. I mean, some obviously does, you know, we have references and certain things, but this is some crazy stuff. So we gotta get busy with the get busy. This is some crazy stuff. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. This right here. This is a visceral fat burner right here. This is a visceral fat burner. Yeah, visceral fat burner. That's kind of what we're going to get into. Here. Let me find this thing and open it up. All right, so we kind of start off with these 8 points. Let me see, can y'all see that? Okay, good. We kind of start off with these 8 points, right? Kind of narrowed it down to these 8 points, right? We kind of narrowed it down to these 8 points, right? Excess sugar converted into fat, electrogenic inhibition, right? Now, just for the people that don't know, right? Electrogenic or electrogenesis. Electrogenesis is the process of creating electricity out of sugar or fatty acids, right? It's the process of, and I'm still kind of tackling that Goliath. I'm still trying to move that mountain. I'm still trying to get people to understand how electricity is created in the body. You know, I feel like Sabi died on that mountain, pun intended. You know, the saying, you're going to die on that mountain. Dr. Sebi died on that mountain. Dr. Sebi died on the mountain of trying to get the world to understand that the body was electric. And I think he did it. I think he was successful on a surface level. I think he was successful on a surface level because people, for the most part, they associate that saying, even those people before him, they associate the body being electric with Dr. Sebi. There's a time period where most of the health people, like most health professionals or good, you know, at least in the holistic or naturopathic space, you know, that was their center where they were coming from. Like, okay, well, the body's electric, so you need to eat electric foods or electric herbs. And that kind of had a window where that was the thing. People even made whole businesses like, I sell electric food or I'm selling electric herbs and blah, 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 blah. Of course, that was gimmick. That was a gimmick. You know, that's not a real thing. Electric foods, electric herbs. That's not exactly a real thing. That was the gimmick. You know what I'm saying? But respect to them for promoting the ideology, you know, adding depth, you know, and pull to the rabbit hole to bring people in, to educate folks. But I don't think that anybody actually went beyond the surface level understanding, because most of the people that were promoting the concept were doing so just to get to their bag. Like they was trying to run a business only. And the business wasn't education. Right? We running the, you know, but the main focal point is education. You know what I'm saying? It's not redirecting you away from education to products. It's education first. Education is the product, right? Inspiration, right? Health is spirituality, right? But the next phase is to understand, okay, the body's electric. If we get the body's electric, then the next thing to do is internalize the concept that sugar is not burned and fat is not burned, right? Sugar is not burned and fat is not burned. Sugar and fat are both converted to electricity, right? A flow of electrons, right? And that flow of electrons is what helps the body to recycle light, to recycle kinetic energy, right? Sound and light, right? That's the thing. We got to get to that point. So I'm still trying to push that mountain. As I see now separately, I have to deal with this fat concept, even though the two of them are connected, right? Because I'm saying you don't burn fat, you convert it to electricity. And so it's like, we got to deal with this conversion process separately. And then we have to deal with the overall commercial, like, I might as well join in with the lawsuit from Drake. Yeah, I might as well join in with the lawsuit from Drake and be like, listen, the machine behind the algorithms is promoting this, you know, disease ideology. In fact, RFK and company, you know, RFK and company, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and company, just put out some work on Big Pharma using social media influencers to normalize medication and disease, right? To normalize medication and disease. Now, I've been saying that for the longest because you had David Sinclair, who popularized the concept of resveratrol, at least commercially anyway. And everybody thought he was like a genius. Like, people always get juiced up with these guys they think is a genius. Oh my God, Liver King is a genius when it comes to working out because he's on an ancestral diet and he's eating testicles. And I'm like, wait, what? Oh yeah, he's eating testicles and building muscle. Come to find out, His name is Brian Johnson, and he's on steroids. It's testicle eating and raw meat and drinking blood. That's not building his muscles. Steroids is. Right? Then we get another Brian Johnson. Right? We get another Brian Johnson. What's the odds on two Brian Johnsons? Right? That's the exact same. So now we get the next Brian Johnson. He like to upgrade. So the first Brian Johnson is a caveman. Right? He's a caveman. He's on eating raw meat, testicles, all that. You know what I'm saying? He gets his kids to put testicles in their mouth. Like, it's crazy. But he's on steroids, right? Then we get the upgrade. We get the George Jetson version of Brian Johnson. You know, this guy is the most, you know, he's spending more money on his body than LeBron. He sleeps in the machine. He wake up with, you know, everything is futuristic, blah, 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 blah. And so he's saying he's never going to die, or he's going to, you know, live to 200 years old because he got all this technology. And he's selling supplements just like Liver King selling supplements. That's how they get their money. These guys is just supplement. They're just herb dealers. But the crazy thing is, he's on steroids. He's on steroids. So people like, oh my God, his skin looks so good. And he shows before and after pictures of like, look how I used to look before I started all these protocols. And now I'm look like I'm aging backwards and blah, 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 blah. It's steroids. He's on steroids, right? So Mr. Future billion dollar man with the health, the futuristic health program, he's on steroids, the same as Brian Johnson on the caveman, ancestral, paleo. He's on steroids, along with 90% of everybody else that's on the internet. They're on steroids. What these guys are doing now is they're faking like they're not using steroids, because this is what they're like. They found like a glitch in their moral compass matrix where they get to fool themselves to think that they're not lying. Now, Liver King was going crazy. So is Brian Johnson. He's using some wild, sophisticated steroids. But the 95% of the people online promoting, you know, health and fitness that call themselves natural. Right, because a lot of folks are just like, no, I'm using enhancements, or I'm using juice, or whatever the case may be. But you got a bunch of folks saying that they're natural, and what they're doing is using TRT. And how they're fixing their face to say they're natural is because they're saying, well, an average man, based on science, is supposed to have this level of testosterone. So because I used steroids back in the day, like Greg Doucette, because I used steroids back in the days, now I only use TRT. The only difference between TRT and classical steroid use is the amount. Yeah, TRT is just a little bit of steroids. Oh my God. Anyway, it's just crazy. And so now you got this whole thing with old folks. You know what I'm saying? You got old guy. Oh, I'm 68 years old and the doctors are asking me about my workout program. Stop it, bro. Nobody's asking you about your workout program except for goofy folks on the internet that believe it's your workout program that's allowing you to carry that much muscle at 70 years old. It's steroids, right? It's steroids. So, and the reason why it's important for us to put that in perspective, because you can naturally get yourself in great shape, right? You can naturally get yourself in great shape if you want to live a long time, right? If you want to live a long time. We don't have any scientific evidence of people using steroids living a long time, right? There's no record of people that use steroids living to be 100. There's no proof of that. We don't have that. We don't have any record of that. Not to say that that won't come to pass, where, you know, people that are using weight loss drugs and muscle building drugs, You know, who knows? This might be the next wave of people to be 100 years old, centenarians. I'm just saying at this point, in 2025, we don't have any proof of that ever happening. The people who use weight loss drugs and the people who use muscle building drugs, they die, they die. They don't reach those 90, 90 years old, 100 years old, 110 years old. We don't see them age well. We don't see them age well. Even some that do reach older years, they don't age well, right? They don't age well. They be on 10, 15 different medications, machines to help them with stuff, and like they don't age well, right? So, but the key is those things generate instant income because there are certain steroids that they use specifically just to burn fat. There are certain steroids that they use particularly just to burn fat. And this is where it becomes dangerous. One of the places that steroid use becomes dangerous because your body is based on efficiency. And when you get a chemical to do something that your body's supposed to do naturally, right? Or at least with food, like with food-based triggers, right? Or exercise, movement-based triggers, or light-based triggers, or water-based triggers. When you get a chemical to replace those natural triggers, a lot of times your body will stop doing that thing on its own, right? And some of these things are crapshoots where two people can use a chemical, they stop using the chemical, one person's natural system turns back on, the other person's natural system never turns back on. And so it's a dice roll. You know what I'm saying? It's and when we're talking about something as important as visceral fat, right? Visceral fat, like, is important, and we need to have a much larger conversation, right? Up until this point, most of us only know. John Q. Public doesn't even know that much. Let me not give too much credit, right? Most people just know fat is fat. Fat is what makes you look sloppy in your clothes, and yeah, it's just unattractive. It's not sexy. People who are a little bit more in the know, they understand you have two types of fat, right? You got subcutaneous fat and you have visceral fat, right? But the conversation stops right there. Right? If you ask folks what's visceral fat, they go, "Oh, that's the fat that's around your organs and whatever." It is really much deeper than that. It's really much deeper than that, and I feel like even the women that have died from plastic surgery, I feel like the ignorance of fat and how fat works contribute to some of these women dying. Not all, I'm not saying most or so few. I'm just saying fat is a major aspect of plastic surgery, right? Removing fat or transporting fat from one area of the body to another, right? Whether it's from the love handles or the stomach to the butt, or adding fat to the lips, or just whatever, like playing around with fat, it's not, fat is not, first of all, fat is not just it's not like a dormant or docile, it's not an inorganic, it's not dead material. Fat is living tissue that produces hormones and cytokines. That's that's one of the main things that makes fat dangerous. Fat is like, it's active. Yeah, you know how you hear folks from the neighborhood, they're like, oh, well, I'm matured and I'm not active in the streets. Fat is active. Fat is still moving around. Fat is dangerous, especially specific types of fat. That's where the conversation, visceral fat specifically, so yeah, that's why we got to have this conversation. It's I don't think there's anything more important that we need to discuss right now at this moment than fat, because it goes into it branches off into every different area. So let's go through this paper, right? Let's go through this paper. Go get your snack, get your notebook out. Yeah, my bad. Maybe you shouldn't go get your snack. Maybe you shouldn't go get your snack. Just saying. Okay, wait a minute. I'm trying to make this bigger. Trying to make this a little bit bigger, but okay, there we go. Death by fat, the theory of electrogenic inhibition. Abstract. The hidden fat that silences the body, a universal doctrine of electrogenic inhibition in death. This paper unveils a unified biological doctrine. Fat is not just a storage molecule. It is the final inhibitor of life, electricity. Across every major degenerative disease, neurodegeneration, cancer, cardiovascular collapse, immune dysfunction, muscular decay, one molecular pattern emerges before cell death. The inappropriate presence of fat within tissues designed to conduct, move, filter, sense, or transform energy. Right? So, right off the back, hopefully, the folks that have been around long enough, you can see that this paper is complementary. I'm looking around to see if I see my original. It's complementary to the original Melanin versus Diabetes, book 1, the very first, well, not the first paper or article or even book, but of this series, right? So when you go to Amazon and you get Melanin versus Diabetes, book 1, that is a article that's the article that started all of this. And we were talking about a different type of tissue, right? To that point, science had only documented, 2 types of tissue. And we came with a third, right? Tissue that produces a excess of energy, more energy than it can use, or at least it's designed that way, right? In this paper, what we're documenting is tissue that inhibits energy production, right? Fat is an insulator. Fat is an insulator. It smothers electricity. It blocks electricity, right? It smothers and blocks electricity. So in the right places, fat directs electricity, right? It directs, it protects. It allows your nerves to function, right? When the fat around the nerves and the neurons go bad, myelin sheath, Schwann cells, things like that, you develop MS, right? Around the muscles, the peripheral nerves, right? You develop muscular dysfunction, tingling, like in the right place, fat is crucial. But with the body being electric, when you have fat in the wrong place, it blocks electric production. It blocks electrogenesis. And so it kills. Right? It kills. This is not the fat we see beneath the skin. This is internal hidden fat, operating at the edge of silence, where signal dies and stillness enters. Its names are different in each location, but its effect is always the same. Voltage collapse, waveform inhibition, metabolic silence, and cellular decay. Below is the detailed expansion of all 17 canonical forms of electrogenic fat infiltration, fully exposed and unified under the final doctrine of electrogenic death. Number 1, mitochondrial fat. Mitochondrial fat, right? Let's take a breather for a second. Let's take a breather for a second. Mitochondria is a word that's getting a lot of publicity. Mitochondria gets a lot of publicity. It's trending in a lot of different health topics, platforms, subjects, algorithms. What about the Larry Holmes? We shouldn't even violate Larry Holmes. But you know, Tupac kind of made that famous. Larry Holmes, flabby and sick, right? So we think flabby and sick now. We think of Larry Holmes. Unfortunately, Larry Holmes was a great champion. But mitochondria can get out of shape. Everybody's mitochondria is not the same. Every single mitochondria in your body is not the same. Mitochondria have muscles. Mitochondria has a body. Mitochondria is a whole organism, right? That's what we need to understand about mitochondria, right? Remember, science tells us that mitochondria was either captured by single cell organisms or mitochondria took single cell organisms hostage. There's no real definitive settled upon logic or sequence of events of how mitochondria got locked into cells and they created their symbiotic relationship. The one thing that's known for sure is that mitochondria is a separate animal, a separate, bacteria that in our textbooks now, we refer to it as an organelle. We refer to it as something like the rest of the things inside the cell, like endoplasmic reticulum or lysosomes or stuff that the cell itself creates. But the cell doesn't really create mitochondria. Mitochondria has its own DNA. Mitochondria replicates itself. Mitochondria is its own separate creature, right? Mitochondria is its own separate creature. So let's look at a mitochondria like this, right? Let's look at a mitochondria like this. Mitochondria have muscles called cristae. Now, this is important because this is where all sugar, fat, right? This is where all of that's supposed to happen. Any type of sugar, quote unquote, burning or fat, quote unquote, burning, any of that happens here, right? But cristae is the equivalent of mitochondria muscles, right? So when you look at a mitochondria under like a microscope, right? First of all, the size is different, right? The size, right? The size, length, and width, right? Size is different amongst mitochondria. That's first things first. The size of mitochondria differs, right? But the most important thing is this, cristae. This is the muscle of the mitochondria. When you look at mitochondria, they got these lines, right? Squiggly lines on it, right? So whenever you see a diagram, the mitochondria diagram is usually drawn like this, right? And so if you don't get that deep into it, right, you're just on the surface level with the information, right? You don't get that deep into it. You don't realize that, first of all, these lines are called cristae, right? These lines are called cristae. And every single mitochondria has a different amount of these lines. Yeah, every single mitochondria has a different amount of these lines. It's not the same. It's not the same. Now, in these lines is the star of the show. In these lines is where the star of the show is at. Electron transport chain. Right? This is the important part. In these lines is the electron transport chain. So now, what does that mean specifically to us? Right? When you're turning sugar, when you're turning fat into fuel, right? Recycling ATP. This is how you do it. The electron transport chain. This is where the electron transport chain is. The more cytochromes, let's write that word down. Cytochromes, right? Cytochromes is what the electron transport chain is made out of. Cytochrome 1, cytochrome 2, cytochrome 3, cytochrome 4, and then cytochrome 5, or, ATPase, however you want to phrase it, right? That's where the magic happens, the cytochromes, the cellular pigments, right? Cyto is cellular, chrome means pigment. The cellular pigments, right, the respiratory proteins is where the magic happens. The more of these cytochromes you have in your mitochondria, the more sugar, the more carbohydrates, the more fatty acids you could safely metabolize, right? So we all have at least one person in our family. If we can't think of one person in our family, it's usually because we're that person, right? But there's always at least one person in the family who, there's no logic or reason. You just don't understand how this human can eat so much food at once, at one time sitting down. Yo, you know what I'm saying? Like you can't understand, like if you take them to a buffet, they look like LeBron, you know what I'm saying? Or they look like Jordan or Magic or somebody. What they're doing just is unheard of. Like, you take the family out, y'all go to a buffet, and after everybody eat, I'm talking about everybody's stuff, they loaded. They like, you know what I mean? Like people going outside for a cigarette break, and you know what I'm saying? Some people that don't smoke cigarettes, they got to take a little quick 10-minute walk. Like, I got to take a little walk. This is crazy, right? Like, people are going to help their metabolism. Everybody is so stuffed. is one person that's still at like season 23. They still putting up numbers. they still going back to the program, coming back with 2-3 full plates. They ain't even moved on to cakes and ice cream yet. They still at the main dishes. They still getting busy like y'all just walked in there 10 minutes ago. Right? This is the person that cleans everybody else's plates on Thanksgiving. And you can't understand it because usually this person is slim or slender. They're not usually a big person, right? The weight doesn't usually catch up with them until, later on. Maybe in their 30s or 40s, they'll get big, right? But in their teenage years and their 20s, they're usually slim. Or if not slim, they're, husky. They like, everybody's mitochondria is different. Everybody's mitochondria has a different amount of cytochromes. Everybody's mitochondria is different sizes, right? Bigger mitochondria are slower. Bigger doesn't necessarily mean more cytochromes. Bigger doesn't necessarily mean faster metabolism, right? What you want is a whole bunch. You want a lot of mitochondria. You don't want a whole bunch of big, slow ones. You want a whole bunch of small, fast ones. And you want all of your mitochondria to be ripped, right? You want them to be ripped. Like when you see somebody that's ripped, they don't even got a 6-pack. They got like a 12-pack. Or they might have a 6 in the front, but then they got like stuff going on the sides and all that. That's how you want your mitochondria to be, right? You want a whole bunch of these little squiggly lines all over the place. You want a whole bunch of these squiggly lines all over the place, because the more little squiggly lines, the more cristae, right? Squiggly. The more electron transport chains you have, the more chains you have, the more cytochromes you have. The more cytochromes you have, the more glucose you can break down. The more water you can create, the more ATP you can recycle, right? Literally, faster metabolism. Literally faster metabolism, right? Now, that's the basics of your mitochondria function, right? That's the basics. But remember how we got here. We got here because we was over here. Yo, all praise due to the Most High, most talented. Yes, sir. All praise due to the Most High, most talented. I appreciate you, brother. Look how we got over here. Mitochondria fat. So this explanation that we just went through, this ain't even got nothing to do with the fat yet. This ain't got nothing to do with the fat yet. Your mitochondria can get fat. Your mitochondria can get fat. Now, what happens when the mitochondria starts to get fat? Oh, it's a wrap. Oh, it's a wrap. Yeah, so this is one of the things that you can just tell when trying to do a push-up. When trying to do a push-up, push-ups is great at this. If you're a grown man and you cannot do 10 push-ups, chances are your mitochondria is in trouble. You have a low number of mitochondria, or your mitochondria is already infected with a lot of fat. A lot of fat, which means that your cytochromes are probably leaking. Right? If your cytochromes are probably leaking, that means you're building up a lot of senescent cells. You're building up a lot of senescent cells. You're building up a lot of senescent cells. Those are cells that don't do anything. They just in the way. You know, you're young, you're moving around. After a certain point, you're supposed to just get out the way. You got a lot of cells that are in the way because your body judges the activity of its cells primarily on the behavior of the mitochondria. If the mitochondria start leaking too many free radicals, your HLA system or MHC system will mark that cell for death, apoptosis. If that cell should escape death, it'll become a senescent cell, a cell that's just in the way, right? Potentially can become a cancer cell or auto, you know, problematic, right? But that's what fat does. Fat blocks electric conduction. So once it's blocking the conduction of electricity, that means protons can't move through the mitochondria because protons follow the electric fields of electrons, right? The electron carries the electric field. Protons are attracted to that. So when the electron moves, the proton moves. When I move, you move. Just like that, unless it's affected by fat. Ooh, that was a bar right there. But the electron transport chain, all of them are subject to fat, right? So most people don't even know, they don't even have that conversation that far, right? There's fat in your mitochondria. Fat in your mitochondria. Like this is way deeper than fitting into a size 10 or, you know, like, oh yeah, I'm about to get ripped for the summer or I'm about to kill him on the gram. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, you're about to be killed by the gram. Right? All right, so we got mitochondria fat. Right? We got mitochondria fat. Then we have brain fat. Right? We have brain fat. Right? Brain fat is a whole nother conversation, right? Because now the reason why we put mitochondria fat first is because this is everywhere. So before we even move on, this is everywhere. This is killing you. Like this is death right here. Because it's everywhere. So as we go through and we start to name like brain fat, perivascular fat, you know, heart, you know, epicardial fat and this and that and bone marrow, like as we start to name these specific parts of the body, I want you to understand that's on top of this. So you have tissues that have multiple layers of fat and nasty gloop on it, right? Inside the cell is fat. On the mitochondria, in the mitochondria, the cell is glooped up, right? But then on top of that, right? So like when we go to the brain, your brain and your heart have the most mitochondria. This is why your brain and your heart is the number 1, number 2 causes of death. Most mitochondria. I'm showing you how the mitochondria is breaking down. So obviously, if this has any validity to it, science would pan out and say, okay, well, if these are facts, then we would see that translate in the death rate. And that's exactly what we see, the heart and the brain. The places with the most mitochondria is the places where people will die. That's the number 1, number 2. Right? So I just want you to know before I erase, like this is everywhere. If you're walking around, these are invisible, like these are invisible forms of body fat that may not even show up. Right? These are invisible because when they do the calipers, remember the calipers only measures body like subcutaneous. So if y'all know what those are, if you don't know what those are, calipers is like the pinching things. They look like scissors, but they pinch your skin, and they measure your body fat percentage based on that. But that's primarily subcutaneous, right? The electric measure is a little bit of a better measure because the electric measure is measuring how fast electric signals go through your body, right? The more fat, the slower electricity moves through your body. So that gives you a better picture, right? But then they got the MRI machines that can take photos of where you have visceral fat stored and how crazy it look on the inside, right? But now, again, our ancestors had cheat codes, and some of the cheat codes are not as accurate as modern day technology, right? But they're so close in accuracy that they're even better than modern day technology because they're more simple, right? The simplicity adds to the quality, meaning your heart rate, right? How many heartbeats per minute? The BPM, like you know what BPM is from going to the studio, listening to music. The BPM, the heartbeat speed. How fast is your resting heartbeat? Like what's your normal resting heartbeat, right? That's not as accurate as the MRI and the woo woo woo. But it does give you a great picture. So our ancestors were able to check your pulse and go, this pulse is crazy. This pulse is crazy. It's almost a second and a half or 2 second, like double time, right? So the faster the heartbeat, the more blockages, you know, the more fat, the more sludge. So the name that they called, whatever they called it, didn't really matter. You know, like a lot of people jumped on Dr. Sebi because back in the 70s, he was saying mucus, right? Oh, it's mucus in the cells. And people was like, oh, there's no such thing as mucus in the cells. And Sebi didn't know what he was talking about. This sludge that's in there, right? Now we have like a more correct name for this would be intramyocellular lipid, right? Intramyocellular lipid. But now if you start, like, nobody knows what intramyocellular lipid, like, and when Sebi was doing this thing, that term didn't exist, right? Now the term exists, but nobody knows what it is, right? So it's easier just to say fat, because that's what intramyocellular lipid is. It's a type of fat. Communication purposes, fat, right? So that's important to remember. This mitochondrial fat affects all tissues, and until now, it's been masquerading as age. Masquerading as age. Oh, you're just getting older, right? Oh, we're just getting older. You know what I'm saying? Like, no. I need y'all to understand this. Is this as serious as the super chats or supporting the, you know what I'm saying? Like, just same way I need y'all to hit the Cash App, Super Chat, Zelle, American Healer website, go to Amazon, get the book. Without that support, we're not making no progress. If you don't become a paid member Patreon, we're not making no progress. But on the flip side, if you're not learning this, we're not making any progress. You're not understanding at the place where quantum mechanics becomes relevant, at the place where the electrons and the protons come together to recycle photons, right? You have fat accumulation, right? We're not even making progress. I need y'all to get this, right? All right. Brain fat, neurolipid accumulation, right? So now this is a new space. Science just acknowledged that there's a glymphatic system, right? So science is catching up, playing catch up. So you might see neurolipid or you might see perivascular, right? You might see neurolipid or perivascular. But that is fat in the brain. And again, the brain is like 60% fat. So the brain is very hard to decode in terms of fat. The brain is very hard to decode, right? So, these are two new areas, neurolipid and perivascular, right? But just because people don't understand them does not mean people are not dying from it. Just because people don't understand these or know these words doesn't mean that what these words represent is not killing them, right? Doesn't mean it's not causing you to lose your memory. Doesn't mean it's not causing you to move in the direction of Parkinson's, to move in the direction of dementia, to move in the direction of Alzheimer's, right? Just because you don't know what these is, maybe your doctor don't even know exactly what these is, but it doesn't mean they're not killing you, right? So again, these all fall under subcutaneous fat, and then you have the inside fat. Right? Then you have the fat that surrounds your organs, quote unquote. And we just leave it there. Right? We just leave it there. But the story goes way deeper than amygdala fat. Now remember, after a piece of my heart died, my little brother, right? After a piece of my heart died on opioids, right? My little brother, we wrote a book, right? We wrote a book dedicated to heart disease, right? We wrote a book dedicated to heart disease. Right? We wrote a book dedicated to heart disease. And in that book, we went into a place that I thought that was it right there. I got too many books. Hey, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. I got a whole nother bookshelf. Here you go. This book here, Speak It Into Existence. The End of Heart Disease Mathematically, right? And in this book, my brother had just passed. So I put a bunch of personal stuff in this book that probably wouldn't have went in this book had I not been going through grieving at the same time as I was writing this book. But nonetheless, we still went extra heavy on the science, right? Extra heavy on the science in terms of identifying the trigger of most heart attacks, which is like 90% of the way to being able to stop or at least limit, cut down, put a dent in the amount of heart attacks that takes place every year, right? At least for the people that learn this information with us. If they never get exposed to this information, then it is what it is. But identifying the amygdala, right? We even followed this book up because it was so much information, because after finding the information in the journals, come to find out, the Bible had already been trying to tell us the same thing, right? But your amygdala is also subject to specific types of fat and scarring, which makes the amygdala a weapon. A weapon. Your amygdala, the almond inside your brain, can be weaponized against you. That's why we say in the prayer 3 times a day, 5 times a day. Hopefully you doing the prayer. We say in the prayer, right? Because your amygdala can take you out of here, right? All of your internal organs and tissues are subject to hardening, scarification, and a lot of times, we might get calcification, right? We might just, calcium is like, calcium is a residue left at these damaged spots. When we go back to what I was saying earlier about the detective work, you see calcium at the scene of the crime. And so we start to blame calcium activity, or the levels of calcium might have been too high. Sometimes the levels of calcium are high because of too much fat. Because what fat does is it blocks ion channels, right? A part of blocking electricity is blocking the ions that creates electricity, right? And so if calcium is trying to get into some cells or get out of some cells, but fat is covering up the ion, the holes in the membrane, right, where the ions flow through, or blocking the proteins, the transformative proteins that the ions lock into, they just build up right there in the tissue locally, right? And if we don't understand what we're looking at, we go, oh yeah, well, the problem with this cell or the problem with this tissue was the calcium buildup. No. That's not the problem. The problem is the thing that caused the calcium to build up. You see what I'm saying? So we might go, oh, calcium is building up. Calcium level's too high. Well, let's add some magnesium in, or let's add some potassium in and see if that can flush the calcium, but that's not the problem. The problem is you have fat blocking the movement of the calcium, right? And so when it's blocking the movement of the calcium, it's also blocking the process that moving calcium creates, right? And so let's say, for instance, you have fat building up in the pancreas. Well, if it's blocking the pancreas, the flow of calcium in and out of beta cells, that means it's either going to block the switch coming on for insulin, or it's going to block the switch being turned off for insulin, right? And so eventually those cells will die, right? And if we were to examine those cells later, we would see a buildup of calcium on top of the cell or in the cell, right? But what we might not pay attention to is the excess fat, because the cell membrane is made out of fat anyway. So the excess fat might slip under the radar, right? I just want you to catch these, how dangerous this is and how hard to catch, right? So you have the amygdala, right? You have the heart, right? Now the heart has two different types, right? The heart has two different types, right? The heart has two different types of fat that smothers it, right? You have the internal and external. Right? So again, this is a private conversation only we having. Right? Nobody's having this conversation. In fact, the closest you can get is maybe a handful of people having a heart, visceral fat conversation. And when they refer to the heart visceral fat, this is what they're talking about. Right? They're talking about epicardial. Epicardial, which is dangerous. We got to have conversations about this, but it's not the only one, right? This is the fat that's inside the pericardium, right? Because, your heart got a bag covering it up, right? And the bag got fluid to keep the heart clean and, cool and doing what it's supposed to do, right? Like antifreeze, it got coolant, right? When you get fat, you build up epicardial adipose tissue, EAT for short, right? Some places, if you look in the journals anyway, you might see EAT, epicardial adipose tissue. Adipose means fat, right? EAT for short. Or you might just see epicardial fat, right? Or you might see that's pretty much, or you might just see heart, like heart fat, just simple, right? But the internal fat is what is even more dangerous, right? The internal fat is what's even more dangerous, right? So whenever you see this term steatosis, that's what that means, right? Whenever you see that word steatosis, whenever you see that word, that means like you got fat mixed inside of the muscle, right? Let me see if I could look up some steatosis for you. Let's see if we can find some. Let's look at some steaks. Okay, perfection. Look at these steaks right here. Where's the link? Okay, here we go. My bad. Okay, look at this. I typed in steaks, right? Can y'all see that? Make it a little bigger. Boop. Okay. Oh, that's as big as it goes. All right, so you see this? The red part is the meat, right? Red meat, right? Then you see like this white and beige stuff, right? You see like the white and the beige? That's fat. Let's see if we can get a bigger picture. Oh no, we can't get a bigger picture. Can y'all see what I'm looking at? Boom. Right? See this white stuff in here? That's fat. Right? Now in your body, healthy muscle tissue doesn't have none of that. Healthy muscle tissue don't have none of that. That's the difference between children and adults and senior citizens. This stuff. Fat mixed inside the muscle tissue. This is called steatosis. All this, when you start getting fat inside your muscles. Right? Now you thinking fat, you got fat right here. I gotta work on this gut. I gotta work on this belly. You know what I'm saying? You have no idea what you're talking about. And the reason you don't know what you're talking about is because, again, we live in the world where the uninformed are being educated by the misinformed. So you don't know what you're talking about because the doctor, the teacher, the professional that you've entrusted doesn't know this either. They don't know this either. Yeah, they don't know this either. Right? So now imagine this. This is what your sick heart looks like. This is why they don't know how to fix the heart. The mitochondria in the heart have fat in it. Listen now, because this is 3 levels. This is the 3 ruffians. This is 3 levels taking you up out of here. The mitochondria, remember, your heart and your brain have the most mitochondria. Now think about the heart, the number 1 killer. The mitochondria got fat in it. Then, on top of the mitochondria, right? Because the mitochondria is inside the muscle cells of the heart, right? So now the muscle cells have their own fat. So the mitochondria have fat. Then on top of that, the cells that have the fat mitochondria is covered in fat. Now, surrounding the heart is the epicardium, a bag that's supposed to keep the heart clean. That bag is flooded with fat. Yeah, that's why folks this is the big one. Yeah, that's why folks is going down. That's why heart disease is taking folks out of here. I'm trying to explain something to you. Stop trolling. Yeah, stop trolling, man. It's crazy. Lesions on your heart. Listen, this is how it go. This is what I'm trying. Come on now. Listen. I know who reading. I know who's studying, who hitting the books. That's what I'm saying. We're going to have a whole curriculum because this information does not exist in the world until we share it with them. That's why what we do on Friday night is so important, because y'all got to get better at teaching, bringing people to inspiration, bringing people to Quras, to Christ, to our culture, bringing people to what it is that we're doing. Because think about it. You want to say Christ, you want to say Quras, you want to say the QRST complex. That electromagnetic wave in your chest that keeps you alive, the electromagnetic wave in your chest that is the definition of life, is under threat, duress, and coercion by fat. Fat in the mitochondria, fat in the muscle tissues, fat in the neurons. Right? Because your heart has muscle tissue and neurons and nerves. Right? All of those, all of the fat. Remember, when you got high levels of fat in the blood, where do you think that's going? You You got high levels of fat in the blood. Where do you think that's going? Just saying. I'm just saying you could do better. Tell me, have you hit the track lately? I'm just saying. Right? Okay. So then we have neural fat. Right? Then we have neural fat. Then we have blood vessel fat. Right? So now that's another thing on the heart. That's another thing on top of the heart. So not only do we have mitochondria fat, we have myosteatosis, right, from the muscle tissues of the fat. Then we got the fat, smothering the heart from the outside in, the epicardial fat, the epicardial adipose. EAT is crazy. As an acronym, EAT is scary. Epicardial adipose tissue. I'll never forget that. That's scary, right? But on top of all that, we got fat in the blood vessels, right? We got fat in the blood vessels. That's what I'm saying. This is the real killer. Listen. We got fat inside our lungs. Now think about that. That's another fat on your heart. Because remember, the lungs, basically, the lungs, not only is the heart located inside the lungs. Let's keep it, a thought wow. Like the heart is basically inside the lungs. But the main, transport of the heart is the little trip through the lungs, right? The blood goes back into the heart, and then from the heart through the lungs back into the heart, right? When it takes that magical trip from the heart through the lungs, that's where the blood gets oxygenated, and then the heart pushes it back out. So now think about that. You got mitochondria in the heart muscle tissues. You got fat in the mitochondria of the heart muscle tissue, right? Then you got fat in the muscles. You also got fat in the mitochondria of the neurons, right? And the melanocyte, all of the cell types that form the heart have mitochondria. So you got fat there. Then you got fat in the muscle tissue, right? Then on top of that, you got fat surrounding the heart in the epicardium, in the pericardium rather, right? Now you got fat inside the lungs, right? Why you think fat people? This is how I knew I was bad, when I got real fat. That's the thing that scared me the most. The thing that scared me the most, I'll never forget the experience, because it's the thing that started me to like wearing garbage bags and walking around the track and all that. Like I didn't even know what to do or how to do it. I just knew that I wasn't trying to die, right? And at the time, me and my man, we had a little jewelry business, over on Broadway. And, so we used to be going to like 148th, 150th and Broadway like 2-3 times a day. And Washington Heights area. And we used to take the train all the time. And one time, now, anybody knows the D train, what stops there? The D train, the A, the D, then you got the C and the B. Yeah, the A, the D, the C, and the B. And when you get out of that train, if you get out on the bottom, you got to walk probably 300 steps. Like it's like 5 or 6 long flights of steps from the bottom train till you get to the street to see. And one day I walked up them and I just got to the top. The sun hit me. As soon as the sun hit me, it was like I couldn't even breathe. I just had to stay there for like a few minutes to get myself together. And I knew in that moment, I was like, man, somebody could whoop you, like somebody, you're not okay out here. I was like, you are not okay out here. You are not okay out here. You can't defend yourself. If you got to fight, you're going to get whooped. If you got to run from a fight, you probably be more dangerous. Like, in that condition in my mind, I'm thinking, even if you get whooped, you probably be better off getting whooped than trying to run away. Because you try to run from something, you might drop dead. Like, your heart gonna stop. Like, you can't even walk upstairs. My heart felt like it was gonna come out of my chest, right? So it's not till now, 20 years later, that I fully understand why that was, right? Why that was. And when you talk to people like cardiologists or whatever, they may tell you, oh, well, after a while, your heart has irreversible scarring or fibrosis. And, we talked about that, vitamin A and, beta carotene and this, that, and other. But thinking about all of the fat, right? You got fat in the mitochondria, fat in the muscle, fat surrounding the heart, fat in the lungs, fat in the blood vessels. So the blood is carrying fat around. Then think about this. Your blood not only carrying fat around, your blood got the nerve to have sugar attached onto it. So now you got A1C, you got sugar, literally. You got half a donut hanging off the blood. Like, bruh, if we understood that QRST, right? Were you comfortable with that? You comfortable with Karas, you comfortable with Christ, you comfortable however you want to. If you understood I'm just saying, that's why I had to write the paper on it, right? Kidney disease, right? Your kidneys have to deal with this, right? Your lymphatic system deals with this, right? Your bone marrow, right? Now, the bone marrow is interesting because the bone marrow also deals with the heart too, right? So now think about this. You got the mitochondria in the heart, the cells, the pericardium, the lungs, the blood vessels, and guess what else you got? You got the bone marrow, what makes the blood. Remember, the bone marrow makes the blood. And let's look at this one. Look at this. Right? Look at this. The kidneys. Right? So remember, the kidney is like the kidney gives the signal. The kidney creates the steroids, right? The signal for the bone marrow to produce more blood, right? The kidney tells the bone marrow to make blood. So the kidney is covered in fat. The mitochondria in the kidney got fat in it. Then the mitochondria in the bone marrow, where the stem cells is at, got fat in it. And then the bone marrow itself got coated in, like, what the I'm trying to tell y'all. This is a lot bigger. Listen to what I'm telling you. That's why I said, yo, this is it now. We done did something here. I'm telling you. And it ain't just me, because y'all carrying me. I'm on y'all shoulders. This up. We done did something here. We done cracked a serious code here. This is serious, right? The muscles, right? Now, why is that important? The muscles build up fat. Well, the muscles build up fat, then the muscles tricks the whole body. All this long, we've been blaming the fat cells only. but it's really the muscles is down with the muscles running the play, right? So if your muscles accumulate fat, the mitochondria accumulate. This is two different types of fat now in your muscle tissue. Mitochondria and then also the muscle cells themselves, right? So they're going to now burn a lot less sugar, right? And as they're burning a lot less sugar, they're going to be less responsive to insulin. So now you have insulin resistance building up from accumulation of fat. Guess what insulin does? Insulin tells your body to store more fat. Fat causes the body to build up insulin, and then insulin tells the body to store more fat. Fat tells the body to build insulin. Insulin tells the body to store fat, which tells the body to produce insulin, which tells the body to store fat. You get locked into these grooves. These are death traps, right? And this is an insulin death trap with fat in the muscle tissue. Then you got leptin and estrogen working together on a similar trap in the fat. So insulin, leptin, and estrogen can kill you. Insulin, leptin, and estrogen can kill you because leptin tries to block melanin concentrating hormone, which tells your body to clear this stuff out, right? So what does this mean for old grandma saying, boy, you need some meat on them bones? This means that you trolling grandma. That's what that means. That means you trolling grandma. Grandma know what she mean, but she don't know what she's saying. She know what she mean, but she don't know what she's saying. What grandma is saying is that you supposed to get down and do them push-ups. You're supposed to be doing them squat. Grandma saying you're supposed to be doing that prayer 5 times a day. Right? If you do the prayer 5 times a day, that's over 100,000 joules that you created. 100,000 joules. Remember, joules is how we measure the conversion of sugars and fats into electricity. Right? So that's what grandma's saying. Grandma's saying she wants you to look strong. Right? She wants you to look vibrant. Yeah, when she say, come lift this couch up, she wants you to be able to come lift the couch up. That's all grandma's saying. She don't know that when she tell you to put some meat on them bones and then she feeds you a crazy plate of, she know what she mean. She know what her heart's saying. She don't know the translation might be a little, you know what I mean? Translation might be a little, she make you a big pie and get you like it, that, yeah. Trust me. Grandmas done killed more people in the neighborhood than gang violence. Listen, grandmas done killed more people in the neighborhood than gang violence. Trust me. Grandma grandma put her foot in that. Okay. Well, she also put she didn't put her foot. Yeah. Grandma putting her foot in that food usually means grandma put a half a bag. She done poured 2.5 pounds of Domino sugar in there, and you getting ready to clock out. All right. So you got intestinal fat, and then you got facial fat, right? Then you got myosteatosis, in the muscles. You have the same thing happen in the tendons and the ligaments. Now that's important to know, because most of us believe that as we get older, our knees, ankles, joints, whatever. But what's actually happening is that as we get older, our tissues is accumulating sugars and fats on it. It's accumulating sugars and fats, so it can't do what it's supposed to, and it's not elastic like it's supposed to be. It's not elastic, it's not tight, it doesn't stretch and snap, right? So that's the problem. And the only way to fix those things is to go through the pain of using them. That's why I tell people you got to get in shape enough to start getting in shape. Right? So when I let myself hibernate for the winter, it normally takes me about 2 months, maybe 3 months, 2 to 3 months of walking before I could even start jogging. Right? Yeah, because if I start jogging, it'll be maybe a few steps or a half a block before my knees will be killing me. Like it'll feel like it's bone on bone, right? It had that bone on bone feeling, but that's not what it is. What it is inactivity. So the inactivity drains your joints of synovial fluid, right? So it might even be kind of some bone on bone activity, but the bone on bone activity is because you don't have enough synovial fluid in there, right? So that's the first thing. You got to start putting pressure on them joints to get the synovial fluid to fill back up, right? Because the synovial fluid is only going to be in there as much as you apply pressure. So if you don't apply pressure because you're sitting down and laying down all day, you're not going to really have no synovial fluid in there. So you got to start slow so you can build up the synovial fluid. Then also the movement will help refreshing those tendons and ligaments, right? So you got to refreshen them tendons and ligaments, get the synovial fluid in there. Then you can start jogging. Then it usually take me about 3 months of jogging before I could try to race one of my children. Once I get a good 2-3 months of walking, then on top of that, 2-3 months of jogging, then I'll be ready to talk that talk. Let's go. Let's see if you could beat dad yet. And then I'll be ready to go top speed. Right? Now, what I need to do is stop hibernating through the winter, right? Because like this year is exceptionally difficult because I broke my leg in January. So this year is super crazy. Right. But I'm back though now. Like now I'm just getting back. But this is August, and I'm just feeling like, so it's taking me a whole 8 months almost to get, and so that's what happens also. The older you get, the harder it gets to go from out of shape to in shape, right? Because of all of the things that you don't see. It's all the things that you don't see. It's the fact that when you go to the hospital and they tell you you okay, you think when you leave in the hospital, you healthy. That's not the same. If you could learn one thing from watching these videos, just know that there's a difference between not sick and healthy. And the difference is like it's an infinite. If you've seen Fantastic Four, it's an infinite amount of space in between not sick and healthy, right? Think about that. Like, let's use LeBron James as healthy. You go to the hospital and the doctors say you good. Yeah, you straight. Don't worry. You good. You got a clean bill of health. You good. When you leave there, you know that like You know that you can't, like, you're not LeBron, right? You're not one of the younger guys. You're not Shea Alexander, or like you're not at that level of health like that. But those are guys that are healthy. Those are guys that are healthy. Like when you look at guys that are 30, 40, but they've been athletic since they were 10 years old, those are the healthy people. They haven't allowed months to turn into years where these little pockets of fat can start to accumulate and disrupt the electric signaling inside their body, disrupt the filaments, disrupt the microtubules, disrupt the ion channels, break up the gap junctions. Like they don't have that. We have that. We have that, right? Even when you're watching these steroid guys on the internet, right? A lot of these steroid guys from the internet, they haven't stopped exercising since they was 10 years old, right? They've been exercising, competing, doing whatever they've been doing since they was young. Then when they get into their 20s, maybe some to their 30s, and they hit a limit with their exercise and physical development, then they go to chemicals, they go to the steroids and the growth hormones and all that, so that they can continue developing, right? So you can't just come from the 9 to 5, laying up on the couch, you going to and then you copying all, like, that's what I'm trying to tell you. It's different, right? So then you got the collagen, right? You got the collagen. So in the paper, we obviously break it down to much more finer detail, right? We go through it, break it down to much finer detail throughout the course, right? Throughout the curriculum, 15 weeks, we're going to try to break this thing down in terms of how it affects the whole body, right? What's the best way to target and get rid of this stuff, like to put your body back to reset, right? To get you to go back to how your body felt when you was like invincible, right? When in your mind, you could just think of it and then go outside and do it. You wasn't scared. You wasn't scared, right? Some folks are still like that at 40 years old. Some still like that at 50, but it's very rare. That's the type of wealth that you can't buy with money. That's why most of the people on the internet is faking. They're using steroids, right? If you could do 60 and 60 at 37, you're healthy. No. That's not true. Listen, if you could do 60 and 60 at any age, if you could do 60 and 60 at any age, you good. You in good condition. You in good condition. 60 and 60, it don't matter what age you is. You could take that 37 off of there. At any age, if you could do 60 real push-ups, if you could do 60 bad push-ups in 60 seconds, you in great shape. Period. I don't care how you get them. Shaking, you didn't go down all the way, or you didn't come up all the way to the top. People always critique your push-ups. Push-ups is like the most criticized thing on earth. Oh yeah, his chest didn't touch the ground. Look at that. His hands was turned like this. The hands supposed to have been like that. Like listen. They're gonna critique them push-ups. Like they listen. So 60 and 60, none of that matters. I'm the founder of the 60 and 60, and I'm telling you, when you're doing 60 and 60, it does not matter. As the supreme judge of the quality of your 60 and 60, It does not matter. I don't even care if the ladies do 60 and 60 with their knees. If you can get 60 push-ups of any kind in less than 60 seconds, you're in good shape. Now, you could be in better shape, obviously, by improving the form of the push-up, right? And then you get to a point where you can do 60 perfect push-ups in 60 seconds. And then you can get to more difficult push-ups, right? You can try to do diamonds, wide, this one, that one. But 60 and 60, I don't care if it's shaky, right? Like right now, I'm still working on my 60 and 60. I can do 60 and 60 right now, but I can't do a straight 60, right? I can't do a straight 60. I got to take a break at 50. So I got to shave time. Yeah, I got to shave time. I got to run through that first 45, 50 so I could soar up some time, and then I take me a little 3 to 5 minute and then knock out that last 10, 15, like, yeah, but I got to get me a break in there. Yeah, I got to get me a break in there, but it don't matter. As long as you get to that 60 in under 60 seconds, you could take a break. You could take 2 breaks. I don't think there's enough time to take more than 2 breaks and still get 60 push-ups in. But if it's possible, hey, figure it out. You know what I'm saying? But I haven't seen anybody be able to take more than 2 breaks. 2 breaks, 2 3-second breaks. Like you ain't got but so much time. You know what I'm saying? So me, I prefer to just take one long break, like a good 5 or 6 seconds. That's a long time. When you're clocking the exercise, 6 seconds is a long time. So I prefer to get me like a nice one long, somewhere between 40 and 50. I'm getting ready to take a break, time out. Boop. And then I'm back in. Yeah. Hey, listen, I'm trying to tell you. Getting beat in push-ups by a girl. Well, not true. Nowadays, I'll be honest, man. No, listen, hold up. Watch this. Chase. Let me tell you the story, because I almost got violated yesterday. It's funny you bring that up. Okay. Yeah. Oh man, you ain't got no clothes on. But just stay right there so the people can hear what you're saying. Listen. All right. Because Peyton said getting beat in push-ups by a girl gotta be ultra humiliating, right? Yeah. So you know what that made me think of? What? Yesterday we did 15 miles, right? Are you talking about the old lady? I'm talking about the old lady. See, he already know what I was talking about. Look, yesterday we did 15 miles, right? So we on the way coming back now. So we on the bottom end of this. We on like, what's that, mile 13 probably? Yeah. So I'm tired. We didn't, and this is like a fake 15, not fake, it's 15, but I didn't go out there to do 15 miles. I thought I was going to do like my little 5, like I got a little loop. I thought I was going to do like a little 5, maybe 7 mile, and take it on back into the house. But at a certain point, and it's probably TMI, but at a certain point we had to use the bathroom, and it became easier to just keep on walking to like one of the porta potties than to turn around and go home. So anyway, I didn't bring no snacks, no hydration, no nothing, right? So we on our way walking back, and it's a small street, right? It's a small street. So, I got my headphones on. Chase and Caleb is behind me. Now, Caleb walks the fastest, so I'm using him as like my motivation. As long as I know I'm in front of him, then in my mind, I'm doing good. So we walking, and if a bike or something come, they'll tap me like, Dad, turn, like so I can move out the way so the bike could go by or whatever the case may be. And God bless her, because she probably feel the kind of way. I didn't even think about it. But a couple of times they had tapped me so people could go by, like runners, runners is running by, people on bikes going by. So one time they tapped me, Dad, and so I turned around and I start to step over into the grass. And when I turn around, I see this lady about 85, 87 years, like some old, bruh. When I tell you, I intended on walking this whole walk, bro, that I started running. I looked around and I said, hell no. God forgive me, because I'm sure she might feel, I don't know how she took it or what. Listen, but I said it loud. It was just instinctually. I didn't mean to. It just came out. I turned around and was like, hell no. It's no way. It's no way I'm walking so slow that I need to move to the side so this 90-year-old lady can go. What? I immediately start booking it. I was like, no, sir. No, sir. No, sir. No, sir. I don't care if I was a mile 99. Huh? I don't care if I was there. And you see, Chase knew immediately what I was talking about, because they had jokes the whole time. They laughed all the way home. Like, they thought that was hilarious. Oh, Dad, yeah, that lady's still coming, like trolling me, basically. Oh, Dad, look out, the lady, like, yeah, they thought that was funny. Bro, I couldn't, I just looked back and I looked at her face and I just said, oh, hell no. And I started booking it like she was trying to rob me or something. I just immediately got the booking. I said, no way in. It's no way. It's no way. No such as animal. I was like, she twice my age. She could be my mama's grandmother. Like, no way. No way. Bro, see, see, listen. Nah, she was out there getting bit. Listen, that's what I'm trying to say. Like, nowadays we can't go, oh, well, that's girls, they weak. Girls is getting busy. It's girls that got 60 and 60. They got 60 straight leg push-ups. You know what I'm saying? Then it's still girls that, that's weak, traditional. They oh, what, I'm a girl, I don't want to get a mustache. They still, but nah, it's ladies out there. Like, we can't even classify them as girls. It's ladies out there, young ladies and ladies that's almost a century that's getting busy. They running, they doing push-ups, they doing squats. So, it is humiliating though. Like, hopefully, you know what I'm saying? For me, it would be, you know what I'm saying? And for you fellas watching, I hope that it is, right? I hope that it is, because it only inspires us to go harder. You know what I'm saying? Not in a way where we want to denigrate their potential or any, but because the first thing I thought of is my daughters. You know what I'm saying? I was like, oh, I was like, there's no way I could let Kylie, like, I just specifically went to Kylie. I was like, there's no way I could let Kylie see an old lady dusting Dad. Like, what? I think my whole, you know what I'm saying, my dad's swag would be like out the window. Like, you can't, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, I was like, no way. Now, maybe if Chase and Caleb wasn't out there, I don't know. She might have just went on by me. I might not even thought about it. But, you know what I'm saying? I can't let an old lady dust me like that with the children watching and all. Like, come on, bro. That's crazy. I got old ladies dusting me with the children watching. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's wild. Yeah, he won't play like that. You know what I'm saying? Yo, I'm dead for sure. Oh my goodness, bro, I'm telling you. So listen, we got to get busy with the get busy. We got to get busy with the get busy. So make sure y'all get these books. We're gonna get busy. Yeah, I think class gonna start tomorrow. This is why you have to go to Amazon and get the book, Rich Abs, Poor Abs, now.